Ayo, I'm back. Once again, I haven't had internet for 3 days, which really sucks, especially for a South African in the US because I'm not connected to any network for mobile data. Anyways, this time we're rocking a Shijuku video for the new weapons for Sephiroth and Red, and the new outfit for Sephiroth, the Shinra formal uniform, which honestly is a bit of a disappointment in my opinion, because we already have a Wind Mastery outfit for Seph, and we would hope to get Windblade Arcanum if we were going to get a second one, but instead we just got another Wind Mastery, which is pretty crappy. But buff debuff extension is pretty nice with his featured weapon, so that's something. And that is the Shinra Military Sword. Pretty cool animation, and the highest physical attack stat in the game. It shares that with Len's Rest in Peace and Cloud's Stream Saber at the moment. Our abilities are actually the perfect complement to his Dark Heavens wind weapon, with boost physical attack and boost wind potency, with more points actually on the boost wind potency. Making those two weapons, two peas in a pod, best friends. They are going to work so well together. Kind of like Yuffie's Hawkeye and Razor Ring, and other similar weapons. For support material, pretty standard stuff. Physical attack boosts and a circle sigil boost, always nice. And then looking at the command ability, it is a typical buff debuff weapon. What I mean by that is that it's non-elemental damage, physical in this case, with 420%. And what it does is raise his physical attack by mid to mid, and raises his wind potency by his wind damage, by high potency, if you have it maxed out enough. Red, they gave us Silver Collar for him, which is very similar to his Ivy Collar actually, but is a bit more supportive. As you can see, his primary stat is actually his heal stat. 301 points puts it in the category of the 6th best heal stat, sharing that with a bunch of other weapons, like Tifa's Grand Gloves or Tranquilizer Gun from Lucia. Anyways, he's got a dedicated boost heal, R ability, and he's got buff debuff extension as well, for a very nice versatile R ability set for healer/support. And then his support materia, attack boost for wind is nice because obviously his ability is non-elemental, so he can capitalize on his debuff with wind materia. And then he also has all cure spells, so you've got a little bit of AoE healing potential with him. Finally, the command ability is a low amount of physical non-elemental damage, but it's all about the debuffs, which is wind resistance of high potency, and if 50% HP or more, water resistance of high potency. So let's compare the most comparable weapons for Sephiroth is the Feathered Gloves from Tifa. Obviously with the highest physical attack stat in the game, his primary stats is much higher than Tifa's. Tifa's weapon has more R ability points though, but Sephiroth's got more elemental potency in his R ability points. So pretty comparable. And then looking at support materia, well, they both have sigil boosts. Tifa can take advantage of her water buff with water materia, where Sephiroth doesn't have that, but if you have Dark Heavens, you don't really need it. Finally, the command abilities, they both do physical non-elemental damage for 20%. And Sephiroth's weapon raises his physical attack by mid to mid, whereas Tifa's weapon lowers the enemy's magic defense by mid to mid. So you can kind of argue which one's better, but at the end of the day, it is just situational. Obviously, if the enemy is resistant to magic defense down, Sephiroth's is going to be better because it just raises his damage. Whereas if the enemy is not immune to magic defense down, then Tifa's probably going to be better in that situation if you're directly comparing them, because your other party members can also capitalize on the magic defense down. Other than that, they both do elemental damage increases. So Sephiroth's is wind elemental damage of high potency, and Tifa's is water elemental damage of high potency. So actually very comparable weapons, with Sephiroth being better on stats and Tifa being better on total R ability points, but Sephiroth bringing more actual elemental R ability points. Tifa with a bit more versatile support materia, and both of their abilities, command abilities, being very, very comparable. So if you want to sort of gauge the power level of this compared to previous weapons, Feathered Gloves is the way to go. Next up is Red. We are actually comparing his new Silver Collar to one of his own weapons, his recent Ivy Collar, because they are super similar, except one is more offensive and one is more supportive. As you can see, Ivy Collar has its primary stat in physical, and Silver Collar has it in heal. Same thing with the R abilities, attack and ability potency versus heal and buff debuff. And then that sort of leaks into the support materia as well, where the Ivy Collar has attack boosts for both of the elements that it debuffs, fire and ice, whereas the Silver Collar has it only for wind and not water, but that is because it has the all cure spells as well. So again, much more supportive, which honestly I prefer in like a debuffing weapon. I prefer the more supportive thing, because in the end of the day, it's a debuffing weapon. You're not really looking to use it for DPS. Now, moving on to the command abilities. The Ivy Collar does 100% more damage, but in the end of the day, both of them are pretty low because it's physical, non-elemental, doesn't matter. The debuffs, it is fire and ice resistance of high potency on Ivy Collar's side with no conditions, so that's a bit better than the Silver Collar where it is wind and water of high potency, resist down, except the water is conditional on Red having 50% or more HP. So, very comparable weapons. You can sort of decide, what you think of the new weapon compared to Ivy Collar, for example. Like I said, I kind of prefer the supportive aspect of a debuffing weapon. Because yeah, your DPS is going to be building DPS. It's going to be looking to go with, strong, high potency, high percentage elemental damage or non-elemental damage. And it's going to want R abilities that complement that. Whereas a debuffer, buff debuff extension is pretty much the perfect thing for that. So in the end of the day, the combination of these two weapons, it's two weapons that give you 4 different high potency elemental resists debuffs. So Red is definitely carving a niche out for himself where he's becoming the de facto elemental debuffer in the game right now. Okay, so Sephiroth's weapon is honestly just an okay weapon on its own, but it is super great with Dark Heavens. It does have the best physical attack stat in the game, so that is always nice. And with Dark Heavens, regardless of which one is in your main hand or your offhand, if you put those two maxed out together, you will have the sweet spot of level 8 wind potency. What is interesting though is if you use Dark Heavens in the main hand, your boost physical attack R ability will also be at max. But if you put the military sword in the main hand, it will actually be 1 point off a maximum boost physical attack R ability. And that is pretty awkward because both of his wind mastery outfits, neither of them, should I say, have boost physical attack. One has HP, other one has buff debuff. So if you main hand the military sword, you will actually need a sub weapon for boost physical attack just to get 1 point so that you can max out boost physical attack. So yeah, that's pretty awkward, but if you don't want to do that, you can just main hand Dark Heavens and then you'll have level 8 wind potency and maxed out boost physical attack. So yeah. But other than that, it is a 380B medium casting weapon, which for what it does is pretty damn good. Some reasons to pull that I could think of was if you're already using Sephiroth with his Dark Heavens as your wind DPS like I am, then this is going to be an awesome complementary weapon for that. As mentioned, it combos perfectly with Dark Heavens to get that level 8 wind potency boost and maximum boost physical attack with just those two weapons, so you can use your sub weapons for whatever else you want, and that is always really, really nice. Other than that, it's actually the best sub weapon for wind potency. So even if you're not using Sephiroth as a wind DPS and using someone else, you could still might want to pick this up because all the other weapons only give you 19 points for wind potency, whereas this one as a sub-weapon will give you 26 points to whoever your win DPS is. Finally, Silver Collar is an overall solid weapon, 6th best heal stat in the game. The real selling point for me is the versatile R abilities, because it has a dedicated boost heal for R ability, R1, and that is really nice to have on a healer. If you don't have at least one, like Guard Stick or Centipede, then it's probably a good shot to pick this up. Also, the buff debuff R ability is really nice with the command ability of this weapon, which is the double elemental resist down. And yeah, overall, it's a fantastic healer / support sub-weapon, because boost heal, buff debuff, that's exactly what they need. It also has solid healing capability, nothing crazy, but you can do some AoE heals with the support materia, especially if you have a really good cure materia. And finally, as mentioned on the banner, it's actually effective versus diamond sigils. That is pretty unique and definitely something worth mentioning, something that people might skip over when looking at the banner. And diamond sigils are obviously not triangle, circle, or X, it is the other sigil that we see. Finally, same as Sephiroth, free ATB with medium cost. For what it does is very nice. Reasons that I could think of to pull for Silver Collar is if you want the ability to AoE heal a bit with red. Obviously, it's not going to be anything like a dedicated AoE healing weapon, but at least gives you that option for smaller AoE heals. Or if you want to build red towards his new niche, which is the de facto elemental debuffer. With Ivy Collar, like I mentioned, this and Ivy Collar is 4 different elements, high potency debuffs, which is, yeah, he's by far the best elemental debuffer right now. And then I also mentioned that it's a great support sub-weapon. So you could pick it up just for that, you know, if you want to give Matt more heal and more debuff extension for his Centipede, or, you know, his most recent syringe weapon, that's going to be good for that too. And then finally, less important but can still be relevant, is if you actually have had struggles with diamond sigils in the past, then this weapon can definitely help you with that as well. Overall, I would say this is actually a pretty skippable banner as well, especially if you're not using Sephiroth as your primary physical wind DPS, or if you're not really looking to use his new weapon, if you don't need extra wind ability points for R abilities. Same thing with Red's Collar. While I do think that the double elemental resist down is going to become more relevant in the future, it is not super duper relevant now, and if you're not interested in making him your sort of primary elemental debuffer, then I would say it's a pretty easy skip as well. That is not to say that they're not good weapons, they obviously are, and for me it is a really tough decision because I spent the large majority of my gems in the last banner trying to get an outfit for Matt, and I really want the military sword because my Dark Heavens is maxed out, so we'll have to see. Either way, thanks so much for watching as always, and I will be catching you in the next one. Peace.